Tonight on NewsWatch, abortionist on trial, a verdict in the case of Dr. Gosnell.
Plus, targeting the Tea Party, what the administration is saying about the IRS is singling out conservative organizations. And how one group is working to help the hundreds of thousands of kids living without a place to call home. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Jurors in the trial of late-term abortion Dr. Gosnell have made their decision. Good evening. I'm Mark Martin. And I'm Wendy Griffith. Gosnell has been found guilty on 3 counts of first-degree murder in the killings of babies born alive. He will now face the possibility of the death penalty in all 3 cases. The 72-year-old was also found guilty of involuntary manslaughter in the overdose death of an adult patient. The jury did acquit him in the death of a 4th baby. Today's verdict comes after the jury deadlocked this morning on 2 counts. They were considering more than 250. The trial of Gosnell has shed new light on the abortion industry. Pro-choice groups call Gosnell's practice, which went unchecked for years, appalling and an outlier in the industry. But some lawmakers on Capitol Hill aren't buying that. They say the Gosnell case has shown how abortion clinics in other states need stricter regulations and oversight.
What we are finding now, through looking at the information from 15 of the states, is that maybe it's not an outlier. And when you're talking about the health, the safety, and the life of women and children, it is imperative that we hold the states accountable.
The Energy and Commerce Committee has sent a letter to all 50 states. They want information to examine how states monitor abortion clinics.
For more on this, we're joined now by John Jessup in Washington. He's been following the Gosnell trial closely. John, now that the verdict has come down, what happens next?
Well, the next phase of this trial is the sentencing phase. And as we have reported, since Dr. Gosnell has been found guilty of at least 3 of those deaths in the babies in the abortion clinic, that means that he could potentially face the death penalty. So the jury will have to come back next week on the 21st, next Tuesday, to decide whether or not they will look at death as a possibility for his sentence or life in prison. And if it's life in prison, it's life for all 3 of those counts against those babies.
Now, the jury was deadlocked this morning. Do we know the 2 charges that stumped them?
You know, we don't, and we probably won't know until the end of the trial completely. My guess, I think it's safe to assume that since early on in the trial, the questions were primarily about his co-defendant, Eileen O'Neill, who was a medical student that the prosecution says was masquerading as a doctor practicing at his clinic. Those first initial questions from the jury had to do with O'Neill. Later on in their deliberation, they started asking more questions about Dr. Gosnell. So I think it's safe to assume that those questions that they had, those counts that were deadlocked earlier on this morning, had to do with Gosnell, and clearly they were able to come to some sort of conclusion.
And quickly, the trial did spark backlash against the mainstream media, and rightly so, for not covering it. But it also seemed to give pro-life groups more momentum. How so?
You know, you're right. The pro-life groups and a lot of conservatives on Capitol Hill were all decrying the fact that this case was not being covered in the media. And really, it drove a conversation, and it got people more interested about this case as to why the media wasn't covering it. And it really started this debate, this dialogue about abortion. And as many people suspect, it not only uncovered what happened at Gosnell's clinic for 3 decades, many people are pointing in the pro-life industry as to this potentially happening in other clinics around the country, as we just stated earlier with that congressional report.
All right, John Jessup, thanks for staying on top of it. And CBN News has been working to bring you the story as it's unfolded. As the case moves into sentencing, we will continue to follow it. For the very latest, visit our website, cbnnews.com.
In other news, the president today blasted IRS agents accused of targeting conservative groups. But he also urged caution, noting that the Treasury Department's Inspector General has not yet released the results of its investigation. Heather Sells reports.
At a press conference with the British Prime Minister, the president called out the IRS on reports that it targeted conservative groups.
If you've got the IRS operating in anything less than a neutral and nonpartisan way, then that is outrageous.
The president said he first learned of the IRS debacle through news reports last week and is waiting on the inspector general to release the results of a year-long investigation. But he pressed the point that Americans must have confidence that the IRS applies the law in a nonpartisan way.
You don't want the IRS ever being perceived to be biased and anything less than neutral in terms of how they operate.
Obama said that Americans are, quote, properly concerned about the issue after the IRS apology on Friday. The agency admits it flagged organizations applying for tax-exempt status if they had Tea Party or Patriot in their names. The IRS originally blamed so-called low-level workers in Cincinnati, but new reports from the Associated Press show senior IRS officials knew as far back as 2011. Congressional Republicans are already beginning several investigations and calling for more.
And I don't care if you're a conservative, a liberal, a Democrat, or a Republican, this should send a chill up your spine. This is something that we cannot let stand. It needs to have a full investigation.
The Inspector General is expected to release its investigation in the coming week. Heather Sells, CBN News.
The American Center for Law and Justice has been representing Tea Party groups in their case against the government. Jay Sekulow spoke out about the IRS on today's 700 Club. He says the ACLJ has responded aggressively to the IRS.
What the IRS has done here, Pat, frankly, is number one, outrageous, but more importantly, unconstitutional. And having the head of the tax-exempt organization say, well, I'm sorry, we apologize, I have a simple answer. Apology not accepted. We're sending out a demand letter today that the remaining 12 cases are granted exemption immediately. And frankly, we're looking at a federal cause of action against the Internal Revenue Service.
And to see that entire interview with Jay, you can visit our website at cbnnews.com. Wendy.
All right, Republicans are calling for an independent investigation of the attacks that killed 4 Americans at the consulate in Benghazi, Libya. The head of the House Oversight Panel is pursuing depositions from Admiral Mike Mullen and retired Ambassador Thomas Pickering. Pickering led the initial investigation into the attacks and the administration's response. New revelations show that the administration talking points went through a dozen revisions suggesting deeper involvement by the White House and the State Department.
I'd call it a cover-up. I would call it a cover-up in the extent that there was willful removal of information which was obvious. I don't know what level of scandal, quote unquote, this rises to, but I know it rises to the level where it requires a full and complete ventilation of these facts.
Congress will hold more hearings to look into the Benghazi affair in coming weeks.
President Obama vowed today to keep pressure on the Syrian government with the help of our Western allies. He said the U.S. will work with Britain to strengthen moderate opposition against the hardline regime of President Bashar Assad. Mr. Obama made the announcement at a news conference alongside British Prime Minister David Cameron.
Former Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif is set to return to office after an overwhelming victory in weekend parliamentary elections. Sharif was previously overthrown from power by a military coup. His latest victory comes as some say relations between the U.S. and Pakistan are deteriorating. In a post-election interview with the Wall Street Journal, Sharif said he wants good relations with the U.S. Critics of Sharif say he has a dangerous tolerance of extremist groups. But U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry welcomed his victory, saying the U.S. will work with the new government. And for more on the Pakistani election, we turn now to our senior international correspondent, Gary Lane. Gary, what do you think of this guy, Nawaz Sharif? He says he wants to end Pakistan's involvement in the U.S. war on terror.
Well, that's because everyone in Pakistan, Wendy, dislikes these drone attacks that are along the border of Pakistan. Sure, terrorists are killed there, but also innocent civilians in some cases have been killed. And for the Pakistanis, this is an issue of sovereignty. They see it as a violation of their sovereignty. Of course, we see it as just trying to kill those that are killing our men in Afghanistan. Well, but I think he's someone that the U.S. can deal with. We have dealt with him in the past.
Will if Pakistan exit, does that open the door for more involvement by extremist groups?
Well, Sharif has always tried, he's on a tight wire. He always delicately balances both sides, and he often plays to the base. And the base is the more Islamist elements within the society. And I think he, though, is someone that we can deal with, and I think this will work out.
Well, there's a lot of Christians in Pakistan. You've been there. You've met with many of them in their house churches. What does this mean for the Christians?
Well, I think more of the same, unless Sharif does something to crack down on these extremists. Now, when he was prime minister before, he put in place anti-terrorism laws and also set up a terrorism court. So if he treats these acts against Christians and their churches as terrorist acts and, you know, cracks down on them, then that will be a better situation for Christians. But so far, I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, Secretary of State John Kerry said he welcomes this new administration, Mr. Sharif. You know, how does this play into American-Pakistani relations?
Well, again, I think he's someone that we can deal with. One of the first things he wants to do is reestablish peace talks with the Indian government. Remember, Sharif is the one that first detonated the nuclear device in Pakistan as a response to what the Indians had done with their nuclear weapons. So he has a record, but he also wants to work peace with them, also get along with the United States. I think it's a wait and see.
All right. It sure would be nice if we have someone we can work with.
Well, he has to get their economy in shape first.
All right, Gary, thanks so much for your insights. Mark?
Coming up, how some churches are preparing for a vote that could allow gay Boy Scouts.
Your dryer runs forever, and your clothes still come out damp? Now you can speed up your dryer by up to 15 minutes. Introducing the Lint Lizard. It's like a magic wand that cleans deep into any dryer. The flexible Lint Lizard attaches right to any vacuum hose. Look how much lint we got out of this dryer. All this lint that escapes past your lint screen. Yuck! A clogged dryer works harder. All that lint can even burn out your motor. Or worse, it can start a dangerous vent fire. It's a full 40 inches long and cleans deep into your vent system, grabbing all the packed-in lint that's choking your dryer. After a quick cleaning with the Lint Lizard, your dryer vent is clear, making it work less and run more efficiently. Old-fashioned lint brushes pull out some lint, and the lint gets everywhere. The Lint Lizard cleans deeper and sends the lint right into your vac bag. Vacuuming between machines and under appliances is a snap. Take it outdoors to vac your outside vent. So before you spend a fortune on costly repairs, order your Lint Lizard for just $10.99. Call right now and you can double your order. And that's not all. We'll also include the Dust Lizard. It attaches to any vac and adjusts to any position. The Dust Lizard goes where no other attachment can. Clean delicate electronics, tedious air vents, tiny tile crevices, crumbs from corners, dirt from slider tracks, places you could never vacuum before, even expensive sculptures and intricate chandeliers. Plus, the Lint Lizard comes with a money-back guarantee. If you're not completely satisfied, return them and keep the Dust Lizard. You get it all, 2 Lint Lizards and the Dust Lizard for $10.99. Call now and find out about free shipping.
Call 1-800-373-2150 and get your Lint Lizard. But call now and you can get a special offer on a second Lint Lizard and the Dust Lizard with your order. So call 1-800-373-2150 and find out about free shipping. That's 1-800-373-2150. Call now.
Welcome back. The Obama administration has filed an appeal that will delay the sale of the morning after pill to girls without prescriptions. The government says U.S. District Judge Edward Corman overstepped his authority when he ruled that any girl of any age could have access to the contraception drug. Last week, Corman refused to delay enforcement of his decision while the government challenges it. Today's appeal asks the Second Circuit Court of Appeals to postpone the judge's ruling while the case is being decided.
Well, it's a vote that could change one of the most influential organizations in our country. In just 10 days, Boy Scout delegates will decide if the ban on gay scouts stays or goes. As Heather Sells explains, a yes vote would likely force thousands of church-sponsored troops to pull their support.
On my heart, I'll do my best.
The Scouting Oath inspires youth to honor God, country, and keep morally straight. It's why many boys and their parents get involved, and why many are so upset about the proposed change.
I've heard several boys say, I'm done. And they'll be within a year of getting their eagle. And getting your eagle is a very, very difficult thing to do.
At a minimum, a change to allow openly gay boys would complicate scouting.
Parents and leaders we spoke with say they're not sure yet just how they would accommodate these kids and make the program work.
What do you do when he turns 18? Let's say he comes in at 14 years old, goes through everything, he's a wonderful scout, gets an Eagle Project, turns 18, wants to become a leader and say, well, I'm sorry, you're gay, you cannot be a leader.
I would expect that we'd have to have separate sleeping accommodations for heterosexual scouts and separate for homosexual scouts. We'd have to have separate bathing facilities.
The proposed change is perhaps Hugh Travis's biggest headache these days. As a Scout executive, he oversees 35,000 boys and adults in the Middle Tennessee Council. It's one of several councils nationwide that's gone public with its opposition. Nationally, the Boy Scouts of America says the change would be good for Scouting because it, quote, acknowledges changes in society and is reflective of how our major religious chartered organizations operate. Faith groups do sponsor 70% of units nationwide, but many, like the Catholic Church and Southern Baptists, say they will not give up core beliefs to stay with the Scouts. That includes First Baptist in Hendersonville. The potential dilemma is putting families here in a difficult position. Mark Carson is close to becoming an Eagle Scout.
We certainly want to keep them on that path. However, if this goes through, I think the first thing that's going to happen is many churches, especially in the Southern Baptist and many others as well, are going to drop their charters.
Conservative activist John Stemberger says the loss of such church groups would devastate the Boy Scout organization.
I think you'd see a mass exodus, not only of major denominations, but just of common sense parents saying, you know what, we can't trust Scouting anymore. There's not that moral consistency throughout the program.
For many families, it's a painful time, watching the program they value struggle and the sons they love caught in the middle.
I know for my son, he loves Scouts. We get here early, we never miss a meeting, he wants to do it all, and he's asked me, he's like, Mom, what do I do?
Heather Sells, CBN News.
Up next, the challenge of finding safe homes for kids in the foster care system.
In 2008, my husband Gary departed for heaven. I was still grieving. And then to find out I had cancer, I began praying, God, how do I do this? Where do I do this? Cancer Treatment Centers of America was the place. Dr. Neelam outlined a plan that would take care of my mind and my body, and she prayed with me.
For Bible-believing Christians, we're able to pray with them in a much deeper way as they begin to really rely upon their faith.
At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, we believe in the power of faith and prayer as indispensable allies in the fight against complex and advanced stage cancer.
I'm back in Telluride on the mountain skiing. I feel strong and healthy.
Advanced medicine and technology.
And I am a survivor.
The warm embrace of the Spirit and the power of prayer.
These are happy tears.
Please go to cancercenter.com/faith. Appointments available now. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Each year, thousands of children enter America's foster care system. Finding a safe home for these kids can be overwhelming for the social workers.
But across the country, the church is helping to ease the burden, especially in Denver, Colorado, where loving homes are being provided for the children who so desperately need them.
Charlene Israel has tonight's Focus Report.
These are just a few of the almost 500,000 children in U.S. foster care.
Will I ever be enough to be loved?
I have a dream. This time, someone wanted me and I didn't have to say goodbye.
The Bible speaks of these children and the answer to their needs. Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress. Here in Colorado, the faith community is answering the biblical call to care for orphans by connecting children in the state's foster care system with families within the local church who are interested in adoption or foster care. Sharon Ford oversees adoption and foster care services for Colorado's Department of Human Services.
We try to reach out to their relatives. Sometimes relatives aren't equipped to provide that safety net for their loved ones, and so we bring them into foster care. So these two young people.
In 2004, that included nearly 900 children and teenagers. But in recent years, that number has dropped significantly.
All across Colorado, we have pastors and lay leaders and other faith leaders going out and sharing our message for us and saying, you know, can you make room in your heart and in your home for the kids that are in Colorado who need to be in a place that's safe?
Children in foster care system have had the one thing that they should be able to count on fall apart, and that is their family.
Pastor Robert Gelinas of Denver's Colorado Community Church wanted to give those children a better life. In 2007, he started Project 127, a faith-based organization that encourages Christian parents to rescue kids from the system.
When you look at the sheer number of followers of Jesus, the sheer number of congregations out there, it is very possible for there to be a family waiting for every single child in foster care. But right now what we have is children waiting for families.
Project 127 started out recruiting families to adopt kids. Its focus now includes finding parents willing to foster kids temporarily or long-term. The project's president, Shelley Raddick, says families across the state have stepped up to help.
We have over 400 families from churches in Colorado that are engaged at some point in the process.
Kevin and Janelle Lusk had 8 kids of their own when they were asked to take in more.
We were challenged by Project 127 to consider obeying the word that says, you know, true religion is to minister to widows and orphans in their need. Okay, feet to faith is, what's that look like?
They need those little pieces that they have not gotten. So, and part of that is that unconditional acceptance and love and playfulness and life-giving that a family can give, not always perfectly, believe me, but we can give a piece, a taste of how God has designed it to be.
Bus, 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 bus. The Brannon family now uses this school bus to get around after opening their hearts and home to foster kids.
Right now we have 8 children. We have 4 biological or homegrown, is what we call them, 2 handpicked, which we're foster adopt, and then right now we have 2 foster children.
Oh my gosh, you're getting so big. How'd you grow so fast?
I'm 6.
Biological son Zach enjoys having new siblings from time to time.
I love them with all my heart. We have great times together, and we just feel great.
Jonathan Good calls on the body of Christ to engage in orphan care in his film, Faultless. He also highlights the problem of finding homes for older foster kids who are often overlooked.
Some of us have got to start saying, we will care for you no matter how hard it is, because we think that Christ is worth it and because we think you are worth it.
Worth it, but not always easy.
Some families go in it and they think that, you know, love's enough. And you know what? Love's a wonderful thing. And love does help heal wounds. But for some of our kids who've really, really been harmed, it takes a lot more than love. And it takes more than just that family.
That's why many believe the church is the answer.
Churches are used to dealing with crisis, used to trying to help families deal with whatever issues that they're facing. And so when a family goes through a difficult time, while adoption and foster care may have its unique challenges, there is a ready-made care structure in a church. And so Project 127 is seeking to bring the whole church to a child, not just a family, but then there's a whole church around that family.
I really felt like God said, this is a for such a time as this ministry. For such a time as these children come into your home, you pour into them, and it doesn't stop there. the Lord is going to take care of them, and the Lord is going to see to their needs.
Charlene Israel, CBN News, Denver, Colorado.
Thanks, Charlene. Up next, what one UN food agency is cooking up to fight hunger around the world.
Ow, my feet hurt. My feet hurt, your feet hurt. White hot pain, I wanna cry. Is there anything I can try?
Why, yes! Introducing Strut Soul Angels, the human shock absorber that helps alleviate foot pain.
The first 10 steps in the morning to the bathroom were excruciating. Within 3 days after I put Struts on, it's been such a relief.
Slipped it on and almost immediately I felt a support, kind of like a pillow underneath my arches.
The Struts Soul Angel provides a great amount of relief and support throughout the course of the day, providing shock absorption and relief of pain.
On your feet without proper support can be painful. Strut Soul Angels promotes better balance, control, and body alignment. Standing in your heels all day is painful, but slip on Struts and you'll enjoy comfort and support 24/7. Struts is so versatile, you'll wear them in every shoe you own, even barefoot.
I'm on my feet all the time. I teach 11 and 12-year-olds. The pain was so much that I knew I had to do something. And with the Struts, I can do my job and enjoy my job.
I usually am on my feet from 8 to 12 hours a day. When I wear my Struts, it's like giving my feet a hug all day.
It's life-changing. I wear them from the minute I get up to the minute I go to bed.
Why pay $400 for custom orthotics?
Now get Strut Soul Angels for just $10. You also get Miracle Foot Repair Cream, absolutely free. Use it to help relieve dry, callous feet overnight. But wait, call right now and we'll double the offer free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Plus, you get a 100% money-back guarantee. If not completely delighted, send it back. But keep the foot cream as our gift just for trying. You get it all. A $70 value for just $10.
Oh, yes! Love my Struts, love my Struts. The best thing since sliced bread. They heal pain from toes to head. Get yours now, your doctor said.
Struts. Be nice to your feet. Call now.
Call 1-800-787-1580 and get your Struts and Miracle Foot Repair for just $10 and we'll double the offer. That's 1-800-787-1580 or visit getstruts.com.
Well, it's a new take on nutrition overseas.
Yeah, Wendy, forget rice and livestock. A UN food agency is looking to edible insects. Yeah, the Rome-based Food and Agriculture Organization says grasshoppers, ants, and other insects are way too underutilized. They argue insects are not only nutritious, but also environmentally friendly. That's because bugs need far less feed than livestock.
Well, insects are very nutritious. They have a high content of protein and minerals and fats. So they're very important for the local populations in many developing countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America.
Experts say 2 billion people, or 1/3 of the world's population, already eats insects. Now, that was a gross shot, that earlier one. Ugh. Believe it or not, they found certain insects like beetles, ants, and crickets contain the same amount of protein per gram as lean meat and fish. But I'm going to stick with lean meat and fish.
Yeah, but you have to eat like twice or 10 times as many grasshoppers, probably.
That's it for this edition of NewsWatch. Have a good night.
Good night. We'll see you tomorrow.